Today we're gonna go over some ways to get rid of some really nasty orange peel in your car surface. This is just freshly painted. I took and masked around the area and used a what we normally do in our prep stage, guide coat. A lot of people think I'm absolutely nuts for doing this, but when you finish this video you'll see that I'm actually a freaking genius. So what I did is I masked off the area. We painted both quarters. I've already sanded this one, so this kind of gives you an idea. I stayed away from the edges. Used 1000 grit to cut this thing down, but that guide coat's going to tell you where you're at with your texture. I just used a SEM guide coat. Make sure it's lacquer based, not the dry stuff that you put on. That dry stuff is like this here. You don't want to use that on this. It doesn't work. So this will help you make sure that you don't wreck your paint job and that you're actually fixing it and getting it back to the texture that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this down with a DA with 1000 grit first, just like you would if you were sanding primer. So just make sure, if you're not the one that painted it, that you find out how many coats of clear somebody put on this. Really, with the amount of orange peel that this has on it, you don't even really need to kind of guess. You can kind of gauge it if you've done any kind of polishing in your career. But what I'm going to do is hit it with some 1000 grit, and then I'm going to go back and hit it with maybe some 1500. You can get away with that pretty easily on white. Black is a different story. You got to step it down a little bit more and get those scratches a little bit finer if you're going to polish black. You can polish 1500 out of black, but it's going to take you a long time. So I would suggest stepping it down to 1015, 2000, maybe even 2500. I generally can get by with 2000 grit. I use a Perfected 2 rubbing compound. As long as you got a pretty good decent compound, you can get the scratches out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and use a white foam pad on this, but I'm going to just kind of go over the area and show you how I sand it. I do stay away from any of the edges here because I don't want to cut through them. So let's go ahead and take a look at that.